At 4ZZZ, we acknowledge the traditional owners of the land on which we broadcast. We pay our respects to the elders past, present and emerging of the Turrbal and Jagera people. We acknowledge that their sovereignty over this land was never ceded.
And we stand in solidarity with them.
You're listening to Transmission on 4ZZZ, amplifying the trans and gender non-conforming voices of Brisbane and beyond.
Hello, you're listening to Transmission on 4ZZZ. My name is Ez, I use he, him pronouns.
My name is Elliott, and I also use he, him pronouns.
You, two lads up in the house on Transmission this morning. I'd like to begin by acknowledging the traditional owners of the land in which 4ZZZ broadcast, the Turrbal, Jagera and Jagera people. Sovereignty was never ceded, and I'd like to extend and acknowledge any elders, Indigenous people listening, and in particular, brother boy and sister girl communities. You're listening to Transmission, all about amplifying the voices of the trans community of Mianjin and across the country, and even beyond, rather. Just all the trans people everywhere.
Just everyone.
Just come here, let me give you a big hug. On Transmission, we talk about, things that affect our community and such like that. So normally we start off the show with the week in community events and news. We do have a few things to get through today, don't we?
We have a few things, yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. We've got a couple.
Yeah, what's first on the agenda?
First up, the Trans Health Research Team's Transform project is Australia's largest ongoing research project with over 2,000 trans people already involved. They're currently recruiting for their third biannual mental health survey with a focus on several community priorities, housing, employment, and anti-trans media. If you're comfortable in getting yourself involved, they have links up on their Instagram and Facebook page to join up. That just search up Trans Health Research. We'll post the link up on our Transmission pages.
Yeah, Trans Health Research they do so much cool stuff. We're working on having a discussion with them at some point to talk about what it is they do exactly and how we can support their research. They're one of the only research bodies in the country that does the extensive and in-depth research that's transgender language and culturally informed. So it's a really great service. So yeah. Trans research trans.
You can do it.
No, my brain's completely
blank. Your brain's fried?
Yeah.
No, that's fair. It's Trans Health Research.
That's it, Trans Health.
You were so close. So close.
I'm like reading the next thing at the same time, you know. Anyway, the next thing is Brisbane's 2024 Pride Queen's Ball is happening it's coming up pretty soon. It's on Saturday, 29th of June, and you can vote for people in the community that, whether that be First Nation leaders or activists of the year. There's also performers and DJs and venues and allies and all these things, and you can vote in the community. It's all nominated. People have nominated folk from within the community, and anyone can vote. You can do it. And so that's... If you head over to the brisbanepride.org.au website, head over there. You can vote. Transmission is nominated, so you can check that out as well. You can vote for us and support us for everything that we do in the community. There's also Activists of the Year. Someone's nominated me. You can vote for me if you'd like. You can also vote for Sev. You can also vote for Nico. There's so many... Oh my gosh, there's so many amazing activists from Queensland that you can vote for. Go take a look. It is brisbanepride.org.au. You can also head to the 4ZZZ website and click the link, 4ZZZ Instagram and click the link in the bio. That'll also take you to the survey that you can fill out. And you can vote for us. So you should do it. Yeah, we do some cool things. Also, in some other news... is what we got going on internationally.
Unfortunate news here. Peru has officially classified transgender people as mentally ill.
Yay. It's going in the right direction, obviously. The government of Peru have officially labelled transgender, non-binary and intersex people as mentally ill. The decree signed by Peruvian President Dina Boluarte also categorized gender identity disorder in children as a mental illness. This controversial decision was made to ensure that public health services can provide comprehensive mental health care for the trans community, according to the Peruvian Health Ministry.
So, good in a way. I still have issue, I guess, with labeling us as mentally ill.
We're mentally ill because you keep telling us we're mentally ill.
I understand from a I don't know, political and healthcare standpoint, that it is a positive
They're
thing.
like, we want to help, but you're going about it wrong.
Really don't like the language, personally.
Yeah. In other news, just a little tidbit on like South America. So Peru maybe not doing so great, but in Uruguay, trans people actually get a pension. So it's the only country in the world where if you are transgender, you will receive a full and livable pension. And you know why you get the pension? Because the government recognizes the marginalization, the discrimination, and the oppression that trans people live through. And so they have basically what I would consider an apology pension is what it is, to say, we're sorry and life is hard. So here you go. Here's how you can
some
live.
help. Here's some support.
So Uruguay for the win. Yeah, Peru can learn some stuff from that. Also, in international news, much more exciting and happier news, and probably no news to you, is that Nemo becomes the first Swiss non-binary artist to ever win Eurovision, which is super cool.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so proud to have had so much like trans and queer representation in this year's Eurovision. I'm not a big fan, I don't watch too much, but Queer Radio do, and you can definitely listen back to a couple episodes with Blair on Queer Radio, which is on Wednesday nights from, I believe, 8 or 9 p.m. Yeah, you can listen to some of his chats about Eurovision. I think Blair, way back in the day, actually used to fly over to Scandinavia and actually watch.
That's full
actually
on.
Used to report as well,
That's
which
very
is
cool.
Pretty cool. Amplifying the voices of the trans and gender non-conforming community of Meanjin, Brisbane and beyond.
Transmission on 4ZZZ brings you the latest in trans community news, music and events.
Every Tuesday from 9am till 10am.
Join our team of hosts for an hour of celebrating the unique perspectives of the trans community.
Transmission, Tuesday mornings from 9am till 10am on 4ZZZ. You're listening to Transmission on 4ZZZ. My name is Ez, I use he, him.
And my name is Elliot, and I also use he, him.
You! Alright, so we're chatting about, a little bit of context. Elliot and I, we, maybe about, 3-4 weeks ago now, we went down to Wurundjeri Country, went down to Victoria, and we went to what we call Trans Camp.
Yeah, affectionately Trans Camp.
Affectionately Trans Camp. But actually, in actual fact, it was called the Trans Justice Strategy Retreat. And over 3 days, so I'm just going to read. Jackie Turner, who's the CEO and, trans leader of the Trans Justice Project, who helped run this event and coordinate this event with a bunch of their other staff and volunteers, sent an email saying, over 3 days on beautiful Wurundjeri Country, we brought together more than 100 trans campaigners from across the continent to talk about how we build a powerful movement for trans justice and fight back against the anti-trans lobby. Jackie goes on to say, I have left feeling re-energized and more inspired and hopeful than ever before. This retreat was one of the largest ever gatherings of trans justice campaigners, allies, and activists in Australia. We had a massive range of experiences in the room, everyone from grassroots activism to parents of trans kids, clinicians, researchers, and longtime advocates. Community members hosted discussions about how we stand up for gender-affirming care, win law reform, counter anti-trans hate, decolonize trans spaces, and grow solidarity with other movements fighting for justice. Most of the agenda was participant-led, with dedicated time for open space discussion groups. We also had caucuses for First Nations people, people of colour, disabled folks, and trans youth. Since the retreat, multiple participants have told us just how empowering and important this space was to them. We spend so much of our lives as trans people feeling like we are alone. The caucuses gave many people the first opportunity to connect in person with other trans folk of similar ages, experiences, and backgrounds. It was 3 days of trans power. I absolutely loved it.
Yeah, it was incredible, honestly, meeting so many fantastic people who are doing so much great work in the community. It was awesome.
Yeah, I was just like... we stayed at, it was like a YMCA or something.
Yeah,
it was like a school camp.
Basically a school camp, classic bunk beds situation.
Yes, room with
sleeping
like
bags.
6 bunks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Honestly, it healed some, school age trauma of, being stuck in a camp.
Yeah. It was awesome because, you're, I think waking up on the second day, the main day, and we walked out of the room to walk down to what was the main, conference room
Yeah, main
/ like
space, yeah.
kitchen and where everyone was. And you kind of walk down some streets and stuff because there's like lots of different buildings in the
Campgrounds.
and you open the door and all these people walking down the street heading down to get breakfast, and everyone was trans or queer, and it was just really surreal to be like, in a little trans village today.
Yeah, it genuinely, it felt really nice to know that, you know, we were all just safe and there was never going to be any fear of, I don't know, being different, being other.
Yeah. It felt like, you know, we were around a lot of our peers and siblings, really. It was really nice.
Yeah,
it was actually, I remember on the first day, I think, I can't remember who was speaking, but it may have been Jackie, but they were like, you know, just so you know, it's good to, like, not assume that everyone here is trans. I'm like, wow, there's so many trans people there. Like, we have to talk about how we can't assume people are cis. This is amazing. And that was really radical to me, to be like, feel like, okay, cis people are actually the minority in this space. Particularly since there was well over 100 people, and over 3 days we still didn't meet everyone. It wasn't possible, and there were so many different people from all across the country. Gosh, I don't even.
We had people from Perth. We had people from South Australia. You know, a bunch of people from Victoria, obviously, because we were there. But it was awesome.
Yeah, it was amazing. And yeah, so we stayed down there together, we bunked together, we had some campfire hangs as well, and we went to lots of community-led discussions and panels and talks that were sort of facilitated through the campgrounds. Elliot and I we split up so we could try and cover as many topics as possible and make sure that we could just hear everything that was going on, and there was just so much going on.
Oh, and I feel like we still missed out on so much conversation.
We didn't get to go to everything, so... It was full on. It was great. It was amazing. And I we all expressed how we want to do it again. Like, this should be an annual thing. I spoke to Jackie about it as well. At one point, we were around the campfire, and I was like, has anything like this ever existed before in the country? And Jackie's like, look, we think that maybe trans women or a group of trans folk in the 70s and 80s may have done a similar thing of rallying everyone around the country to meet together in a semi-rural space to discuss the movement. But as far as we're aware, this is the first official one that we know of. And it's by far the most number of transgender activists I'd ever seen in one space, and it was just very healing. It was a really healing and empowering weekend. What were some of the highlights for you?
I think, primarily just meeting everyone was a big thing, because I do get caught up in being surrounded so absolutely by cis straight heteronormative spaces, right? And just meeting so many people that are doing really great work, so good. It was really important, I think, for me. But honestly, it was also just really informative, a lot of different perspectives. It was really, really great hearing from our First Nations trans folks that were there, talking about what we can do to better help include them, adding SB to the Australian LGBTQIA+.
Yes.
Having SB there would be huge. It's such a small change, and they've been working on that for 3, 4, 5 years or something ridiculous. And
pushing for it.
Still not a thing.
SB stands for sister, girl, and brother, boy. I don't know if you're a hardcore Z fan, you read the Z letter. I write the Z letter. I've started adding SB to the end of LGBTQI+, as if any movement, particularly this kind of movement, was centered. We need to be centering First Nations people in this. Yeah. So that's how we can show solidarity.
Yeah, absolutely. What was important for you? What did you get most from this?
Oh my gosh. I mean, I think it was one of the most exciting things to... There were more trans masks. Actually, that's
absolutely.
That's probably the thing. I'm trying to think about it personally. What's personally something that I got from it? I think the fact that there were so many trans mask people. Charlie actually has a theory, which is that the trans femmes are very higher population in the more tropical areas, and then the trans masks get hairier, so therefore
they move
to somewhere colder. Because I swear there are a lot more trans masks down there.
Honestly, it's not a bad move. I get very hot up here. It is not a pleasant experience in the summer.
Yeah, I almost feel like I don't need a jumper anymore. I don't know. We'll see how we go. But I did feel a lot more trans mask of seen down there. I don't know. Again, it could have been a climate thing, but that was just something that I had noticed. I think also something else that I got out of it was there were a few speakers that talked on topics that really resonated with me. So, for example, we had Hayley Conway. She's not a trans person, but she is an ally, and she ran a trans and gender diverse inclusion in sports across the country. And we talked a lot, and she held this panel where we talked about where the current state of play for trans inclusion in sport. And, you know, we talked about identifying key opportunities, you know, and ways that we can address growing threats within the sports area. Participants, you know, we also got, you know, detailed summary of the positions of the top 10 Australian participation sports and the Australian Institute of Sport at both an elite and community level. So we looked at, you know, what professional sports, what's happening there, and what's happening at a community level. In case you're wondering, there are absolutely zero regulations on gender if you're on a community level in any sport. So if you're trans and you want to play a sport in a community level, just, you know, kick about for fun in your local club, there are no restrictions on that. So yeah, if you're that was really cool. That was really empowering. We'll have to get Hayley on to have a chat about Pride Cup and all of those other things. I think something else that really resonated with me was a good friend of ours does a show on 3RRR down in Victoria, in Melbourne, called Queer View Mirror. Sam Elkin, also the author of a book called A Queer Legal Saga, Detachable Penis, which just came out as well, which is awesome. Detachable Penis is obviously a shout out to the King Missile track. But Sam gave a talk on storytelling and how to tell stories and your own personal stories in the media. So it was very informative on how, you know, as someone like us doing Transmission, how we can help people share their stories. And it was really cool because Sam actually featured Transmission in his talk and asked me up to talk a little bit about the show, which was really cool. And so, yeah, Sam is someone that you, if you're interested in another author that's talking about some of his personal experiences navigating, you know, legal spaces and transitioning, it's a great story for that. So yeah, there's so many things. What about you? What else did you?
I mean, I also rocked up to the panel discussion for standing up for gender affirming care, tax on trans health. They had a medical professional from Victoria down there. I don't know. I don't feel entirely comfortable saying her name because she's also dealt with some anti-trans hate.
Right. Yeah.
She spoke about it at the panel, where she's completely off the grid in terms of social media. They have to screen all of her letters, all of her calls, everything to the hospital because it's just crazy.
Wow.
what she and her team have to deal with. That was really interesting hearing from, I guess, from the other side. You know, we as trans people are often doing a lot of our own medical stuff. You know, I know I can speak for a few people where we have to kind of educate our medical teams if they're not explicitly in the trans space. But yeah, they spoke a lot from the other side as people working for trans healthcare. Just the stuff they have to deal with. Crazy amounts of crap, honestly. But
yeah, especially if you're getting doxxed.
Yeah, exactly. So she explicitly asked for no photos, nothing to show that she was there, just to keep herself safe, honestly, which is an unfortunate reality of the situation that we're currently in. But it was super enlightening despite all of that, the efforts that these people are going to make sure that we get the healthcare that we need. And how much they care, you know, it can be easy to kind of forget that these people are choosing to help us, and they are choosing, despite all of that, to really, you know, put us first and try really hard to get us what we need. And it was really good. I really enjoyed it.
There was also, I think, another person who ran an anti-doxxing tools for online safety against the far right. I attended that session. The description for the session was, threats of doxxing from far right have been steadily increasing, particularly for trans, queer and drag performers. This interactive workshop outlines some of the threats we face and practical tools that we can use online in order to reduce the risks presented to us, bringing a laptop. So yeah, brought my laptop along and I learnt how to dox myself. Turns out it's pretty easy.
Yeah.
But now it's not. So But we learn lots of tools on, like, as someone that's in the media, as a trans person that's at the forefront of maybe change or advocacy or activism or what have you, put yourself in a very vulnerable position. And so learn some skills on how to protect myself and also how to protect others. There are resources out there. They're tricky to find, but mostly, you know, the big thing that you can do, and a tip that I really liked from this was, if you're ever taking a selfie of yourself, you're taking a photo of yourself, look at the background and the space behind you and behind your photo, because you can reverse search an image now, particularly on the new smartphones. You can reverse search images. All you have to do is, like, take a photo in your front yard, and that person can find you with Google locations, with satellite, and then once they know where you live, that's a problem. So
it's also, it's not just one photo though, you know, it's looking back at your entire history of anything that you can see and making sure that, you know, because it's like a puzzle. It's like people grab 15
little pieces
different,
of things.
yeah, 15 different photos and go, I know exactly where you are.
Yeah,
one photo isn't going to do it, but most of the time.
So be mindful of like the spaces that you're taking photos and uploading, and you can look after your safety in that way. Also, be careful about the information that you disclose to Meta. I mean, Meta's not going to do the same things that maybe the far right might, but we all know where we stand on Meta. So,
but it's also like not just Meta. How many things do you sign up for? How many times do you go into a shop and they'll ask you a postcode? How many times do you don't have to give me a postcode.
Yeah.
Tell them 4,000. You live in Brisbane.
Just give them like your like dodgiest suburb postcode. I mean, why not? You could also just say random four numbers. You'll be fine. You're listening to Transmission on 4ZZZ. My name is Ez. I use he, him pronouns.
And my name is Elliot. I also use he, him.
And we're chatting about our time at the Trans Justice Strategy Retreat, which we have affectionately called Trans Camp, as did pretty much everyone else who was also at Trans Camp. So we had a lot of fun, and we learnt lots of things with lots of panels and lots of discussions, and some important information that Elliot took away that you would like to share.
I hadn't really thought about this in the past, but it was something that was brought up while we were sort of talking at Trans Camp, is the difference between anti-trans and transphobia. So transphobia is something that we all deal with every day, and that it can be as simple as just, I don't know, not looking at us the same as cis people, or like assuming something about us that we're, I don't know, weird or deviants or whatever, just because we're trans, right? And that, yes, is transphobic, but it's not explicitly anti-trans. A lot of it comes from just societal norms and pressure and the media, how we're represented, how we're presented by anti-trans people, right? The most obvious case of being anti-trans for me is what used to be a beloved British author that we all know. She is very explicitly anti-trans, and it comes across in her actions, and that's the biggest difference that I think is seen as actions versus beliefs, right? So like you can sort of kind of in your core believe something about what trans people might be, and that is, transphobic, but she takes that a step further and presents that in her actions with supporting anti-trans organizations in posting a bunch of stuff about how we allegedly are as people.
And spreading misinformation.
Yeah, exactly. Spreading misinformation about us and who we are. It's a lot of it is political instead of like a moral belief. A lot of it is just a way to get votes based on people's potential moral beliefs. It does tend to be a smaller section of the public rather than a huge section of the public that we understand to be existing in life. It's I think something that we tend to forget because we do get caught up in the day-to-day transphobia that we experience, right? We think that everyone is anti-trans because of transphobic experiences, and that's, I don't think, what the actual case is. Anti-trans stuff is very prevalent right now. It's very big in the media, it's very big in politics, but I don't think that it is true to say that everyone is anti-trans,
Yes. Well, you can be homophobic and not be like anti-queer, because you can be like, you can say something in passing because you're ignorant, which can be transphobic, but not because you necessarily dislike trans people or you want to see their lives treated differently.
Some queer people have, internalized homophobia or transphobia, and that doesn't mean that they're anti-trans or anti-homosexual or anti-queer. It means that they are just dealing with the societal stuff that we've been pushed onto us.
Dealing with the brainwashing.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that it's important to sort of take a step back and remember that. Not everyone is anti-us because they have transphobic beliefs or because they've been indoctrinated into transphobic beliefs.
Curious to know if, like, because that was a session you had with Jackie, where you learn about the difference between anti-trans versus transphobia.
Yeah, it was a part of a much larger session about what we can be doing to sort of fight against anti-trans propaganda and help to sort of push the people around us in the direction of positivity and I guess enlightenment.
Yeah, and like revealing I mean, I particularly liked that every aspect of every talk that we went to, every caucus that we spent time with, we were learning, we were connecting, we were making some, like, I met the only trans woman vet in the country while I was there, you know?
Yeah.
I also met a doula who specializes in trans Masc and non-binary people having children and, like, how they have families and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
I you know, met people from trans health research. We met, like, everywhere and anywhere. There was, like...
Yeah.
It was amazing.
I think that was a big part of that greater discussion, right, of what we can do as a community to fight against that anti-trans rhetoric. And a big part of that is meeting people, getting a community, you know, talking about our experiences, showing that we are people and we are just trying to live and exist as ourselves.
We just want to live.
I want to live.
I just want to change my gender marker.
Yeah. We're so close.
I know, 24th of June. It's going to happen.
But, like, realistically, that's all we got to do. We gotta fight against that us versus them kind of mentality, right?
Yeah, we do.
Because it's not us versus them. We're all the same.
Yeah.
Realistically, we're all just people trying to live, and a lot of this hate comes from fear of the unknown.
It's like, it's also people, like, freak out because they, like, may have... If you haven't met a trans person, meet a damn trans person.
If you haven't met a trans person, you have met a trans person. But realistically, like, think about the, you know, homophobia that was and still is rife, but, like, used to be so much more prevalent, right? It's less prevalent now because people know gay people. People know queer people. Yeah. And they know them to be normal people.
It's normalizing it in the quotations. Normalizing it in mainstream and film, television, media, all that sort of stuff.
That's why representation matters.
Yeah, representation matters, damn it. Overall, we're gonna wrap up now. Yeah.
Let's drag it time.
We could talk about Trans Camp all day and all these things. Mainly, the big thing was that the goal for the retreat was to foster new connections among campaigners, cross-pollinate ideas, hone our skills, and strengthen our movement through collaboration. And Jackie says, we are now more ready than ever to take on the anti-trans lobby and win a better future for all trans and gender diverse people. This retreat was a historic moment for our community, and we are just getting started. So,
damn right.
I love it. I love it so much. Thank you so much for tuning into Transmission, and see you all next week.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you so much for listening to Transmission. See you next Tuesday, 9 to 10 a.m. on 4ZZZ.